Silent Hill 2 was released on October 8th as a remaster to the original game that released on September 25th, 2001. October 8th was pretty close to September 25th, to the point that I almost feel like they could have released this game the same day they did on the original game, but they released it on the spooky October month, which is probably more fun anyways. I often heard that Silent Hill 2 was considered one of the best psychological horror games of its time, and I was ready to get down and spooky this Halloween and learn why this game was hailed as one of the great horror games. And I have to say that this remaster is fantastic. This game also has 8 different endings that you can get, and I was considering starting to play through games more than just beating them once and moving on, and so I began my journey into the creepy town of Silent Hill. This video does contain spoilers for my entire playthrough of the game, so if you're worried about that, don't watch the video.
In my restless dreams, I see that town. Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you.
They start you off walking through some woods, and this is where the sound effects really start to come into play. I was just sitting there walking through the woods, and I felt like I could get jumped by monsters at any moment just from the passive audio the game always has playing. I managed to make my way into the town, which is called Silent Hill, and you end up following this thing that is literally making monster sounds and crawling around and moving unnaturally. The main character decides to call out to this monster and follow him. I was like, bro, that is not a human.
Hello?
But this main character seems to not really care about what happens to him or whatever is lurking in this town. I also have to say the monsters in this game are quite creepy, and the main character, whose name is James, just beats the living shit out of these monsters. They really nailed the creepy ambience and vibes. The graphics combined with the gameplay and audio is well done, and I think feels pretty good on a lot of your bodily senses, if that makes sense. You're quickly met with the first puzzle, which is to get a jukebox playing, and you run around the creepy town that is littered with monsters, and you end up in an apartment complex which has a creepy ass room that you have to stick your hand in a wall that's all gooey and sticky in order to get an item. This game requires you to be able to solve puzzles and navigate a map. The areas on the map that are circled is where you want to head, and once the objective has been completed, James will mark a check on that part of the map. So once I had gotten all the pieces for the jukebox, I am given a key which leads to a sensory overload of monsters and crazy fog. I panically rushed throughout the town until I figured out where the next place is that I'm supposed to go. Which was an apartment complex. I mean, at first this place seemed cozy and inviting, and I thought I would meet that girl that I think travels with you for some time at one point in the game, but instead I was met with a confusing puzzly area that was just creepy as flipping fudge, man. Despite this, I started this day being unfazed by the creepiness of this game. I was like, people speedrun this game, it won't scare me. I went into a room with a bunch of mannequins, and I knew that a jump scare was coming, and I also knew that I wouldn't let it faze me. It scared me, but honestly, I was like, well fucking done. Well done, jump scare. In this part of the game, they have you collecting 3 coins and then solving a riddle. The coins are sparse throughout the apartment building. I eventually found my way to a secret room that was behind a Chester drawer, and as I went into the room, the door closed behind me, and I was to solve a puzzle to crack a safe. So to crack the safe, you are given a riddle, and the riddle tells you the order of the numbers, and the numbers are hidden on a wall. Figuring this out by myself took me a while, but I could feel the dopamine in my brain when I cracked the safe. I would go on to navigate the maze-like halls of the apartments and battle enemies. Eventually, I had found all 3 coins, but thought that I needed 5 coins, so I continued to explore until I realized I just needed 3 of them to get me to the next area. You end up getting a cutscene with, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I just call him the KKK guy. This cutscene gives you the impression that he is unkillable potentially, and also leads you into the overworld, which is like an afterlife version of the place you were already in. So now I'm in the apartment complex overworld, and after a short time of being here, I was sure this was the scariest place in the game that I would visit most likely. This area of the game, everything looked red and dreary. They also had the KKK guy's footsteps that you could hear occasionally, and I was scared, man. I just had this constant thought in the back of my head that he was unkillable, and I would have to run around and hide from him when he finally did show himself, which built up a lot of tension in me. This area had you trying to get all the hands that show the time on a clock. To get one of the hands, there was an area's puzzle that had you looking at different moths. The moths had symbols on their backs, and the symbols correlated to numbers that cracked a locked code. I figured that out and got one of the hands for the clock. Eventually, after navigating through the dark, dreary piece of crap apartment overworld that had me creeped out, I got to my first boss fight against this son of a... I figured the game was hinting that you couldn't hurt him and ran around for a bit, but after a while I started thinking, maybe I should kill this guy. I mean, I had nothing against this guy. He spared me, so I should spare his life in return, but not at the cost of my own ideals in life. So I shot him up, whacked his ass, etc, etc. Nothing seemed to do anything to him, but it turns out it was just a matter of survival. You have to survive for X amount of time against him, then you can go out onto that peaceful park and street. Ah, how peaceful it was. I didn't realize at the time how good I had it. You go to the next area in the game, and I can sort of imagine playing this on an old console and being in the different sections of the games. Here you meet Maria, who will be accompanying you for some time throughout the game. This was an intriguing scene, and this part of the game was stress relieving and chill for the most part. I feel like any fear I had in this part of the game was mostly from the unknown. The fact that I didn't know what was in store for my future. I wasn't even sure if I could trust Maria that much, as I had seen some creepy clips of her. I mean, she ain't need to do nothing creepy or anything like that for Pete's sakes. Like, why is she walking away from me into a dark room just to mess with me? After some time walking, we run into a girl calling for help.
It's okay. There's plenty of other places to look. We can still...
Who decides to run into an abandoned hospital. I mean, an abandoned hospital. Like, why wouldn't it be an abandoned hospital? What's next? A dark street and a prison? Psh.
I don't know. Let's look around.
But before I get to that, you follow Maria, you go to a statue where she tells you a riddle that seems to have some significance in this game, and then to a movie theater that has a girl and a boy, and the boy is probably eating guts because he's crazy, bro, he's crazy. Then the girl runs off into the hospital, and there's a nice pleasant light shining through the windows when you enter the hospital. But as time goes on, the place just gets creepier and creepier and darker, so I played this game on normal puzzle difficulty, and I was able to complete all the puzzles without any guides or anything, except for the padlock to get into the nurse's lounge. I could not find the code for the padlock for the life of me, so I did use a guide for that, which I felt a bit bad about. But I was wandering this hospital's hallways for eternity and couldn't find it, but that was the only guide I used for my first playthrough of this game. Anyways, this hospital was the beginning of hell in this game. It was maze-like, and I was sure this would be the creepiest place I visited in this game. Plus, it introduced a new enemy type, so we now have Hobo Onesie Guy, Four-Legged Gal Guy, and now Hot Nurse Creepy Guy. So the Hobo guys are now fodder to the Great Me, and the mannequins like to hide and surprise you. And the nurses take a lot of damage in order to be taken down and are usually accompanied with flickering lights. This area of the game, I have to say the broken elevator had me on edge the most. At the end of this area, Laura, the girl you're chasing after, because she seems to know something about Mary, childishly tricks you into going into a room, then traps you there, and you will have your next boss fight in this room, which this guy had a lot of HP, and after the KKK guy, I was questioning whether this guy would take damage or not as well. This guy was pretty tough, but I managed to kill him after a while. I was wondering why he has a hole in the bottom of his body, and well, yeah. The next area is the Overworld Hospital, which I started to notice a theme of going to like an afterlife type place that is similar to the area you were just in, which they call the Overworld. At the end of this place, you are led into a cutscene where Maria says she doesn't feel confident about venturing to the next place.
Come on. It's gonna be fine.
You get chased by the KKK guy in the next place, and you're trying to escape him with Maria. So this is a chase scene with an unkillable guy chasing you, and I hate getting chased. It's like one of my pet peeves / fears. I was running for my life, and this guy was breaking walls, taking shortcuts and shit. And yeah, Maria gets owned by the end of this scene. Talk about foreshadowing. Then you end up in a dark street at night, and this wasn't too bad, minus the monster that was under the floor. This probably gave me the most heebie-jeebies in the game. This guy had me terrified, and I ran for my life. So the next area is the Toluca prison, and they have you going deeper, deeper, and deeper. I just want to take this time to say that I fear the KKK guy more than any enemy in the game, but the monsters under the floor were a close second until I realized that you could kill them.
I told him not to, but he didn't listen.
Eddie, you can't just kill someone because of the way they looked at you.
You should see your face, James. I was just joking. The guy was dead when I got here. I got you, didn't I?
Yeah, that guy's definitely a serial killer. It actually took me a while to get started on this puzzle. I couldn't figure out the first step to get it started. I was flipping the light switches and just doing random stuff like that. This game has certain areas that don't have any background music, and it's honestly really eerie. The area for the main objective of this puzzle had no background music and creepy crawling sounds. I finally figured out that there are little blocks by the scale, and you put the blocks on the scale and the weight of them unlocks certain doors. I got the new gun, which is the rifle, which is essentially a long-range shotgun in this game. One part that stood out to me in this area was the showers of the prison. There was a bunch of dead monsters on the ground, which I felt like they were going to come to life, and once I completed the objective, they did. So I solved all the doors of this puzzle, then went to hang myself, cause why not? Hung myself on the wrong hangy thing though, so I got led into a trap. Hate when I do that, you know? Hang myself on the wrong shit. Next time I hung myself properly, and this is where I met Abstract Daddy. Did I mention that I was sure Toluca Prison would be the scariest place in the game? I was wrong, again. I won't pull your guys' legs any longer. The Abstract Daddy area was the scariest part for me. First, there is Maria, who is just kind of existing in this room and being creepy. Then there is a cube, and I feel like abstract is the right word to describe this cube. It's abstract and otherworldly and rotates with a little too much force. There's the KKK guy a bit before this area, the monsters underneath the floor, the boss called Abstract Daddy. I think this area had a bit of everything and was the climax of the game. For Abstract Daddy, you're running through hallways with loud, disorienting noises, and he is chasing you. Eventually you run into a room with a TV, you smash the TV, then all hell breaks loose, and you run to the next TV and repeat the process. It is terrifying.
What I did? Look at me!
To escape the abstract world, you have to get the KKK guy to chop up these arms, then you escape into the real world and you run into this son of You end up fighting him. You have a gun-to-gun, man-to-man fight, but I'm the protagonist, so of course I'm gonna clap him. But on a side note, I found this fight very unique. Like, you are fighting an actual human. Just seeing the colors of his clothes as I was fighting him felt unique to me. Overall, pretty cool fight, but I just have to say that bro is a serial killer, and he wanted the smoke, so I challenged him to a 1v1 for Mary's honor. He accepted, and he was dipping and weaving between these sacks of meat, and I was waxing and washing, and he started losing, so he put up a smoke screen. I actually played very well on normal mode in this game. I died 0 times in my playthrough and had like 11 heals and 8 syringes by this point. So he started clapping me up with the smoke screen, but I was tankier than he was, and also faster, smarter, and had more dexterity, and I was just better looking than he was. So I put his ass down. Cool fight overall though. You go into the hotel where Mary is supposedly located, and I was starting to get excited because I knew my hell would finally be over. Laura tells you that there's a letter from Mary that, like, she had an additional letter from Mary that she lost, and you set out to look for it. To be honest, from this point, there is actually a decent bit left of the game. You just kind of go throughout the hotel, and it's decently scary, but not as scary as the rest of the game. It's kind of similar to the apartment complex, I would say. You solve puzzles and explore the area. One of the puzzles had you looking at a picture, then you put a book that correlates to the picture in the right location, and then the bookshelf reveals the hidden area behind it. Eventually you get a boss fight against one of those things that are usually underneath the floor, and I shot and whacked him, and he actually hit me a decent amount of times, but I defeated him eventually. This area started to get interesting when you find an elevator. To get in the elevator, you have to leave all of your gear behind, so you can't have guns or a crowbar or nothing like that. And you're met with an area that has enemies patrolling the floor, and you have to sneak around while solving more puzzles. I was super cautious in this part because you didn't have any items. I was hiding, taking my time, and chilling in the rooms. It honestly wasn't bad. I was stressed out, but got through this with finesse. Eventually, I made my way back up to the hotel, and I guess I found out that I had actually murdered Mary.
Are you taping again? Come on. I don't know why, but I just love it here. It's so peaceful. You know what I heard? This whole area used to be a sacred place. I think I can see why. It's too bad we have to leave. Promise you'll take me again, James?
So yeah, that didn't go great. Mary then tells you that you've almost made it to her and not to give up, and you go to the hotel overworld. You have to go from the highest floor of the hotel down to the basement. When I got to that basement, I was a bit wary if enemies would be there and I couldn't have weapons or something, but that wasn't the case. Instead, I got a cutscene with Angela saying everything is burned, and I have no clue what is going on with the story of this game by this point. It just seems to be random cutscenes, and the main character has amnesia or something. Like, he forgot he killed his wife and is searching for her. I do want to say I think the game is fantastic, and every time I played it I got the same feeling I get when I start reading a good book. Just the story isn't really followable. I get into my next boss fight, which is against 2 of the KKK guys, and you have to survive for an extended period of time after they kill your beloved Maria for the 3rd time. I mean, this girl just got unlucky as hell. But I think you can get alternative things with Maria if you do different things in different playthroughs. I do know that Maria has her own ending out of the 8 possible endings that you can get. This game had me contemplating what I was playing though. It was kind of messed up. Anyways, I walked down a long tunnel and some stairs and ended in the final boss fight with Mary. I guess you're fighting the Mary that haunts your memories. Should have murdered her with a good conscience, I guess. And she was actually a pretty tough boss fight. I genuinely thought that I might die and have my only death in the game be right at the end. She even had you going underneath the floor and her attacking from above. Eventually I failed her though. I got the in-water ending, so James commits suicide. Given a dialogue from Mary. The thing that stood out to me in this cutscene was her saying,
I just hope the pain will end soon, so that you remember me for who I was, and not what the disease made me.
I feel like if you get sick or something, you just don't feel good, or might be a little bit less friendly, or even get kind of ugly sometimes. So I think that little tidbit of a message was a really good one. Overall, I think this game was insanely well made and a great experience to have. The themes of the game kind of tell a message in themselves about trauma, mental disorder, and sickness, and it was kind of therapeutic just beating the crap out of the monsters. So that'll do it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.